Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Collector's Company. We're here with Tim, who's just come back from the regionals last Sunday. Tim, why don't you tell us what you did and what you did it with?
So I went from back to back going mill. I played Janemba, and then this time I decided to play cooler. So just mill was my thing.
That's very true. I have never versed Tim with him using almost anything but mill, even if he's not even milling me. It's pretty obnoxious. Uh, Tell us about your deck.
Okay, so the deck is basically just a mill deck, but whereas Janemba mills passively, this mills actively. It mills their battle cards by negating them. So the leader is exactly the same on both sides, except for the fact on its unawakened side, it has to draw a card by attacking leaders, which is a negative, but it's fine. Basically, the way it works is when you neg your opponent's battle cards, every single time, they mill one card from their deck, and you just keep that going. It has on both sides once per turn. When one of their cards is negged by one of your battle cards, you also get to draw a card. So by comparison, this also has more draw power. And then just untap one, draw one, more or less, and then it's just exactly the same on the other side, except it can attack whatever it likes and draws a card.
Fantastic.
Nice and easy. So we'll go into the main deck. First up, we need check lands. It's kind of important. We need to have active energy, especially if we want to actually be using energy, which is the whole point of the game.
Absolute must-have in a red-blue deck.
And then we're going to start the neg engine with the classic, the card design for the deck.
Of course.
Cooler. So Cooler negs two things, ignoring barrier, -10, and makes them mill one on top of it. So when you include the leader, that's a mill 3. So this is the main mill, and particularly for decks that have lots of barrier, this is the main card you're going for that makes sure you get consecutive mill and actually killing the card. The big thing is you actually want to make sure their cards die, otherwise they'll keep swinging and probably kill you.
Nope, that's very fair.
And he's also a double strike. This deck, if it wants to, can actually go and push for damage.
It's always nice to have a backup plan.
Next, Hercule Blue.
Of course.
Hercule Blue, it's a 3, doesn't need to be a 4. So this one is an arrival blue again, one's for 1 energy. Except this one's just a 19k, but this one draws a card and makes one thing by 10. So it's definitely worse. However, if you use them together, you're negging something 10, 10, and then negging something 10. At the end of the turn, this can also add this back to your hand, so you can then use it again and keep your mill going.
Fantastic. We love recycling. We're very environmentally conscious here in Millland.
We have the new card, Chilled.
Ah, yes. Such a good card.
This card is amazing. So this card is a dual attack blocker. It's a rival red blue for both red and blue, so it's actually slightly more expensive. However, it has a bit of both put in. It looks at your deck of your top 5 for a red-blue Freezer clan, which is a large chunk of the deck, including himself. So, for example, in my last game, I actually, for some reason, had never drawn my coolers up until turn 8. And I really needed to mill 3 because he had 4 cards left in deck. This was the only card, and I knew, hey, I have 7 or 8 cards left in deck. I just looked top 5. I know they were in there. So it got it out, play it, I win.
It's amazing that you survived till turn 8 without seeing a cooler.
It was absolutely incredible. And then, on top of that, he's also negs himself. He also negs as well. So he's also neg 15, ignoring barrier. So he's still helping the deck. And on top of that, he's also, if you have a red-blue multicolor card in your energy, which you always do, he is a free 5k multicolor combo, which helps you with your rivals.
Fantastic.
Which is brilliant.
Look, that's the name of the game in DBS. The more text on a card, usually the better it is.
Exactly. The super combo you have to play, it's Beerus.
Of course.
Like, being able to use your energy and then just go, oh, I'm going to untap my energy and then rival it straight in, it's the whole point of the deck. And, like, in particular, with this version of the deck, you're actually okay with tapping yourself out and then Beerus, and then we'll go into the next card, which is Sensu Beans.
Of course.
And then suddenly you have all your energy back and you can start milling them again.
Weird how that happens.
And people absolutely hate that a red deck technically is this much defense. And we'll go into more as we go, but it's actually, people really don't like it. Next, to help the survival engine, we have Combo Attack Cooler. It's an oldie but a goodie. So the way he works is, say you've arrived in your cooler. You've done these full effect, you've milled them. You then activate battle, play cooler. The way the activate battle works is he returns this cooler back to your hand so you can use it again. And that's all he does. But the whole idea is you get to use it again. He also has a once per turn when he attacks or when he is attacked, he combos with a multicolor from your drop for free, which is occasionally helpful, but it's really not ever needed.
Do you find anyone ever actually attacks it, forgetting that it does
Never.
that?
It usually never stays on board the turn it's actually played, and it's not needed to. It's just to recycle these.
That's fair. Also a shame, but it's fair.
Okay, next. Freezer Death's Embrace.
Ugh.
Now, I would run this card at 3, but I only had 2. My last one was in the mail during the tournament, and it came the day after. Which hurt, but hey, we did well anyway.
That's okay.
So this is it draws a card on play, that's all it does. And then its big one, activate battle, not once per turn. I can choose one of my opponent's leader cards or battle cards, and it gets -10 for the battle.
And I will say, for an SR, this is still such a pretty card, and it holds up so well today. Why is this a full art SR? Back in the days, it looks magnificent.
It's gorgeous. But basically, especially against indestructible and high-power cards, early turns, you play one of these, if your opponent doesn't remove it and you have a Bean or a Beerus, you can neg 10, 20, 30. Easy. Done. And then even after you've done that, which I did do several times, you can just combo it off, because it's not even tapping itself to do it.
Yeah, that's very fair. And it's not once per turn or limit 1.
So, another new card. Complementing this entire multicolor engine.
Oh, yes.
The second auto doesn't do anything in this deck because we're not going to do it later. But the first one, we look at the top 5 cards and add a red-blue multicolor card with an energy cost of 6 or less in top 5 to my hand. That's every multicolor in the deck. That's every single one. So if you're missing something, if you're missing your Beerus, done. You're missing Cooler, done. Easy.
Fantastic card. It's always great to see cantrips getting power crept.
This whole deck is just constantly cycling. Like, people will often, just like I was with Janemba decks, and they're just going, how many cards now? I went 13. I went, what? Next one. I only ran one of these. Now, I would 1, 2, maybe 3, but once again, I only had 1. Now, the thing is a lot of people actually play around Cooler nowadays. They don't actually play a lot of battle cards, so this actually doesn't get a lot of value. However, having it in as maybe 1 or 2 is actually really good for the very occasion where they do actually go wide. Because it negs up to 5 of them, -10, which makes them mill 5, which is fantastic.
Very fair for 1 energy.
A interesting tech card I put in that I'd probably take out and replace with another Freezer or go home, Mafuba.
I was curious about Mafuba.
So there is quite a few cards in this format which I simply don't want attacking.
Fair.
Say the Golden Cooler SCR or the 9-drop Blue Cell. I'd much rather them not attack in the first place. Especially if I don't have a full neg to kill the card on its first swing. Now, it's not 100% necessary, but I thought it would be an interesting attack, and I had spare deck space. And it's an old favourite.
It's a pretty good tech piece.
Draw engines. Black Smoke.
Of course. Everyone knows Black Smoke.
Just like in Janemba, this card is completely snapped in Mel decks, because all 3 effects are just too good.
Exactly.
Instincts. I saw these a lot, use them a lot, you just use them, and your hand just goes up.
Even as a 2-of.
And this as a whole, and then all the cantrips, it just helps against hand control. Never saw hand control, but happens.
I don't know if any of us was going to see hand control, but it's fair enough point.
Oceanus.
Yes.
Now, particularly later in the game, Oceanus is a key card, because if your opponent doesn't counterplay it, when their deck is at, say, 8 to 10, they tend to not swing at all. Because if they do, they will deck out. So Oceanus is key. I would probably keep it at 3, not at 4. At 4, it's a little clunky. At 3, it's good. At 3, you need to see it. And this put in work, especially when people did not counterplay it. It just gave you an entire turn. Often I would do this, I would counterplay it, and they would just pass immediately with all their energy up. They wouldn't even use it. For the current format, we need it. Dirty Burst.
Yes.
We have to get around Triumphant together.
If you have blue energy, you're not allowed to not run Dirty Burst. I'm sorry, it's just the rule.
Dirty Burst. And there's more of them inside because you have to see them. It is critical. When you really need hard negates, testing.
Yep.
The one sad thing with testing, the reason why I'll never play 4, is one card that really hits this deck is Koitsukai. And
yes,
testing also does badly into Koitsukai.
Very, very true.
Which is very bad. And now we'll go into the nifty tech. We have 2 freezers and 4 pans. Now, a lot of people were talking about this and they were a little bit confused. Here's the way this works. You play the pan whenever you want to in the game. A 1-drop with barrier, your opponent goes, I don't really need to get rid of it, he'll probably combo it off, he might give it to me, he might do something weird. So it's just too much effort for them to actually get rid of it. And then it draws you a card, so once again, it's another cantrip. And then on turn 5 or 6, you suddenly give them a bunch of pans, play a freezer, and swing a freezer.
That's very rude.
So they have their already built up board. Say they have 1 or 2 battle cards. Say you give them 1 or 2 pans. Freezer negs their entire board by minus 30.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, it also has an order. Each time one of their cards is negged, they mill an additional 2. So that's 3 per card. So in that situation where they have 4, they're milling 12 cards.
Wow.
Which is insane. You can just win the game on the spot.
That is incredible, and also terrible babysitting.
An interesting take if people were interested is you can actually run the Piccolo SR in this deck just to discard, just to see pans. Which is interesting, but I just decided not to put in this particular version.
No.
Finally,
that's
SCR,
very fair.
Cooler. Now, I had people asking, why in the world are you playing Cooler and not just a card that negs the board or a card that mills? Here's the thing. What does Cooler mess around with? It messes around with their deck, and it messes around with their battle areas.
Mm-hmm.
This card, on its own, completely reduces their hand and uses their Z energy to my advantage. This is an alternate win con. And it's an alternate win con in a deck where you go, hey, I'm milling you. What if I also did a large amount of hand control and swung at you 8 times in one turn?
That would be very
and clears
upsetting.
your whole board, in case it's suddenly got out of control.
Oh, well, when you put it that way, it's like you're just attacking them from all angles.
Exactly. It's absolutely ridiculous. So that's the main deck. We'll now go into the Z deck, and then we'll go into the side. Z deck.
Mm-hmm.
The only Z battle card I played, for some reason, throughout the entire event, was this. And I only ever played it once. Now, that's not saying the deck doesn't like playing Z battle cards. It just so happens I never played them except for this one time. Now, I only played this once, but I didn't have to, just because I wanted to see the next card on my deck. There was no other reason.
I see.
Which I found endlessly entertaining, that over 6 rounds, I only played one Z battle card one time.
Clearly, the rest were just maybe holding you back. So,
because this is red-blue, it has access to really good Z battle cards. So it has access to 21, in case I really need to get rid of something and I want to have a blocker barrier, say. Speaking of which, Beerus, in case I want to attack and get rid of high-cost cards. In case I want to do a free damage. Rush attacks, in case I want to kill them all at once.
Yes.
Because I've run out of options. And the thing is rush attack is not just attack and then attack again with bigger. It's also making them mill.
Yes.
Because it also negs things by 15. So it's just fantastic. That's the Z deck.
That's
Generally, this deck
upsetting.
doesn't charge a lot of Z energy, but over the course of the game, it does get there.
It's a very robust Z deck.
Extra deck. Or side deck. Jiren. Turning the tide is a problem. If your opponent gets a turning the tide, you lose your entire hand. Cooler dies if it loses its entire hand. Completely.
Makes sense.
So it kind of has to run it. In my game where my opponent did have turning the tide, he didn't end up going for it, but I did actually have 2 Jirens in my hand in case he turned the tide and baby aped. Didn't end up happening, but that was there. As said, we need it for Try and Put Together. Try and Put Together hurts so much, simply because it turns off my ability to combo. I can't even neg it down.
Yes, that's very true.
For decks like 21 and Kaioken Goku, peel off. It helps. I sided in my game against 21, but I never saw it. Didn't need it. Extra Floodgate, Topo. As we said, we're not really dealing with our opponent's hand, but hey, if it stops your opponent attacking for the turn, it stops your opponent attacking for the turn.
Yeah, that's fair. I've never been too desperate to attack through Topo.
Something Cooler struggles with is obviously a deck that's spamming unisons. For example, the other Cooler or Golden Freezer. For that, I put these in. Specifically to deal with their unisons. Now, I never played any of those, but it was there in case I needed it.
Well, that's very fair. But well, you're very prepared, clearly.
Just in case we saw hand control, another instincts. And I have no idea why I put these in. I just wanted to put it in because I like them. Like, say I'm playing a deck, a completely rogue deck that just happens to have an important card that's 20k or less that I have to get rid of, it'll get rid of it. It also can be turned into a check land, just in case.
So long as all your opponent's energy is in rest, if I remember correctly.
Yes, which early on in the game can happen. But, yeah, that's the whole deck.
Fantastic.
You did very well.
Yeah. Oh, clearly you did. You played a somewhat rogue choice, very rogue choice, I'd say, and you came sixth and were rewarded for it. Any shout outs you'd like to give?
I'd like to give a shout out to Collectors, of course, for having me here. I'd like to give a shout
Happy
out to Cardtastic and now Turn Order Games for being the best place you can be in Australia to learn and play and get better at the game.
Now proven by hard results.
Now 100% proven because we stole all of top 16. We had 7 out of the top 10. I want to give a shout out, of course, to my brother, who always play tests with me and is a lot of fun to play with. I want to give a shout out to my fiance, who's always supporting me. And yeah, thank you. Shout out to everyone.
Well, you've heard it. Thank you very much for joining us, Tim, and thank you everyone for joining us for the video. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
Bye.